Or do you want to add this later?
Uh, Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We are back for something a little bit different tonight. I'm here as usual with my co-pilot, Mr. Stop Spamming, and he's going to be doing a presentation about the historicity of Muhammad. Was he a man or was he a myth? And I'm going to give some limited pushback myself on this topic because I'm with I think it's reasonable to say that the majority of scholars who look into Islam say that he was a real person. I think there are some that disagree, but I think most will stick with the idea that there was some real person behind the man, or a bit behind the story, should I say? And I tend to go with that, but I'm open to it. And I know that Stops holds the opposite position, and he's got a lot of knowledge and information on this. So basically, he's going to do some presentation. I'm going to sit back and interject from time to time, and hopefully, everyone in the chat can leave comments whether you agree, disagree, and we can resolve this once and for all. Right, Stops?
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I'm just going to show you what my information level is. I mean, we're all looking at the same documents, all right? We're all looking at the same text. We're all looking at the same material. There's no secret material that anybody has that would say something different to warrant a different kind of factual analysis. It's all down to interpretation. It's all down to what every individual makes of what it is that there is to see. Now, what I'm doing is I mean, you, I once did this only on the text for 1.5 hours. Okay, so I don't want to do that. I just want to make sure that people understand that there are different viewpoints and that there's different ways of doing this, different ways of looking at this, and different approaches. What every individual, what every one of you is going to make of this is up to you. Now, Drastic, what you will have to do is I won't be able to keep an eye on the chat. So if there's any interjection which covers what I am talking about at the moment, if I need to clarify something, then interrupt me and tell me. But not on things, but you're not looking at things, because you don't know what I'm going to be doing in 5 minutes. So it's only about things that I have already said. All right.
Yeah, I will keep my eye on the chat, and I'll interject as
Okay,
appropriate.
brilliant.
But
Now,
otherwise,
what I'm going to be doing, there's so many different ways of doing this. All right. What you can do is you can take the approach of the text. You can look at the geology. You can look at the agriculture. You can look at the geography. You can look at so many different things. So what I thought I was going to start off with is what is the information that we have. Now, if you start with the Quran, there's not a lot there. There's no there. Okay, I wonder if I have this on. The thing is, I did this like just running around very quickly. So I'm not sure that I've actually entered this into this text because there's only 4 mentions of something close to resembling the name of Muhammad. No.
if you haven't got it, I think I've got the verses on another document. I can find them. It was on that one I
Well,
was talking
it's
about.
not really important because I also have them. It's a nice to have, but it's not essential. So the way that it happens is Muhammad is actually MHMD, all right? In Arabic, like in Hebrew, it's a Semitic language. You don't have, you have diacritical markings. So you have MHMD or HMMT or something like this, but you don't have the U, the A, the E, and so on. So these are things that are marked afterwards. Now, the problem is that in the beginning, there were no diacritical markings. They only came in 8th, 9th century around then. So any early text is already difficult to read because you don't have any vowels. So what
Stops.
you see,
Can I just interject and just would you be able to explain diacritical markings just for those who don't know what that is?
you have. I don't know if you look at Arabic language, you'll see little dots, little strokes, little dashes underneath, on top, and things like that. So if whether you have a fa or ga, ha or whatever, it's indicated only by these dots. So, like in English, you will have something like what can I use as an example? They were
We've got like the umlaut in German, haven't you? Over would
no,
that be
that's something different.
okay? Sorry.
because
Two
here the
vowels.
vowels are missing. So it's very easy to have two words which are very similar. Like for even if you look at Jesus, for example, in Syriac, is written almost identical to Muhammad in Arabic. So
Right.
if you are somebody who's familiar with Syriac and you see the letters, you could say, aha, this is Jesus and not Muhammad. So
Right.
it's quite intricate sometimes. It's very difficult to interpret this, which is why you have a lot of errors. Like there's one thing where you are told you are not you are commanded to, and then it says you are prohibited. So between those two, it's very close in Arabic, which is why somebody made a mistake and he changed a commanded into a prohibited. And this is in the Quran, and you can see that the rest of the sentence then does not make any sense because you are prohibited from doing something that in other places of the Quran is commanded. So you need to be very careful with the scripture. Now, what this means is that, for example, MHMD, Muhammad, actually refers to a function, actually refers to a descriptor, which is the praised one. Now, the praised one, as we know, in the centuries before Islam, this was Jesus. Now, as an example, in the Quran, for example, there's a sentence which only consists of three words, which is praise, message, God. All right? That's all you get. Now, what you can do with this, you can say, okay, and this is what the apologist translators did because they had the traditional narrative in mind. They changed the praise into the praised one, which then becomes Muhammad, and message they change into messenger, and then God obviously is Allah. So then the sentence which you find in the Quran, praise message God, changes into Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So this is something that if you translate it from the older texts, you will not find. So it's very difficult to actually translate this. This is why, for example, someone like Murad went around and came up with a totally different translation
Can I ask a
because he
question on
says,
this,
yeah,
Stops? Just on the praised one. So, I understand what you're saying there, but even if that is a title, could it still not be referring to a person, even if you
sure,
can't confirm that it's Muhammad's name?
absolutely, it's the praised one. Yeah, it's a person.
So it is a person. So you could. So this is what I'm saying. I mean, I can understand from the point of view that yes, therefore, to say that we know his name as Muhammad would be wrong, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't a guy called Muhammad who was the founder. It seems like there was still a founder, and it's just whether his name was Muhammad or not is now under question.
Well, that's a different story. What I'm saying is that if you see somewhere the praised one, it does not necessarily mean it's Muhammad. It could also be Jesus. So
Right.
if if
Okay. Okay.
if we look at the history now of Islam, we see different indications that sort of tend to go towards a Christian and Jewish origin of Islam than a completely new religion, a completely new God concept. So the same goes for Muhammad. Now, if we go and we look at the Quran, there's nothing about Muhammad in the Quran. He's barely mentioned. I mean, of the four times, only once you can consider maybe that this could be a name. The others are definitely just titles. And then there's because you learn absolutely nothing about Muhammad from the Quran. You need secondary text. You need some sort of um, a source which gives you information about this person.
Sorry, Stops. I'm just putting up a comment about what you said from Too Many Marys. It says it cannot be a title. There is no article. Why do you keep saying the praise one? It does not say the
Okay, sorry, praised one.
praise one. Right. Okay.
Otherwise, there should be an al in front of it. There's no al in front of it. It's just praised one. It's just. I mean, it's not. I did not make this up. Okay, I did not write this. The thing is, you can't from the knowledge of today's MSA, the modern standard Arabic, you cannot automatically deduce that everything that you find in Arabic today was the same 1,000 years ago. So that the Quranic Arabic, the standard, the traditional ancient Arabic, is different from today's modern standard Arabic. So this is also something that you need to consider. So if somebody says, "Well, I'm an Arabic speaker. I was born with Arabic, so I should know this," no, you don't. Um, Quranic Arabic is a dead language. Okay, so you need to study it. You cannot grow up in Quranic Arabic. There's no way that you can do this. Like ancient Greek. Um, you can't grow up in ancient Greek. It's the same as with English. Um, there's a evolution in language which you can't automatically deduce that if you speak today's version, it's the same as the version a couple of hundred or even 1,000 years ago. So what I'm saying is there's nothing in the Quran about Muhammad. So you need secondary texts, and there you have what you see on top here. You have different versions of biographies, which give you some detail about the life of this person called Muhammad. The only problem with this is we don't have the originals because we don't have anything by Ibn Ishaq. We don't have anything by Ibn Hisham. What we suddenly get is a translation by Guillaume, and this is just a couple of 100 years old. And if we go and look, what did he actually translate? The texts are very um, muddled here because we don't have the originals. So we don't really know where all this stuff comes from. It is attributed to Ibn Isham, and Isham says, "Yeah, I'm just copying what Ibn Ishaq said. I'm just leaving out the really bad parts, and I'm just revising it a little bit." But we can't verify this because there's no original. Just the same as there's no original in the Quran. Now, what is quite funny is that a couple of days ago, exactly with this same topic, we had well, it was a 2.5 hour podcast by Dr. J. Smith and Mel, who did exactly this, who came to the same conclusions as what I did. And so this is quite interesting. They, of course, go a little bit further. And I'm not following what they are doing really because they're constantly talking about Christianity, how it is better. And it is not. It's the same problem. Anyway.
Stops. Just to say, you have a very strong critic here. Too many Marys in the comment section. There's lots of comments there where you're getting challenged here. I don't know whether maybe we could invite this person in after you've done your presentation, if you'd be
Yes,
comfortable with
absolutely.
that, or would you?
Well,
I mean,
they can just give me an example. What is it that I'm saying that is not factual? What is wrong in their mind?
wow, there's a lot here. Let's have a look. Right. Right. They're saying it's untrue. Not one time is the praised one used for Jesus.
How do you know that?
This is just what the person's saying. Murad has illegitimate methods. We've done the thing about the title. Why haven't you tried to find an Aramaic reference to Muhammad? I'm not deducing.
How do you know that I haven't?
Again, I'm
Exactly. I'm talking not to you. I'm talking to him.
Yeah, I am not deducing Quranic Arabic as the article. I have you. Not sure what that one is for. You're repeating what other people say, but they are false. These are not biographies in the list. No, they're not.
Excuse me. What is it? It says here biography, life of the messenger, the Sirat Rasul Allah. What does it mean? What are you talking about?
There are multiple sources for Ibn Ishaq, not just Hisham. So you are misrepresenting the data.
What? Okay, what are the Jesus? Okay, this is silly. Okay, this is absolutely silly. No, there are not multiple sources for this. This is ridiculous. I don't know. Well, okay, look. If you have multiple sources, well, then bring them up. If you have all this stuff, then go ahead and do it. Present it. I'm just giving you the information that is available to me. Okay, if you have secret documents somewhere, you have multiple sources for all this stuff, bring it on.
Too many Marys. Okay. Would you be interested in coming on to the panel once Stops has done his presentation and talking it out, because you're welcome on.
It says in the Quran, bring your facts if you are truthful. That's it. I know you haven't because you have not cited. I am okay. This is
You are
stupid.
only at the start of the presentation at the moment, so you got to give it.
Yes,
You
this
got
is
to give him
exactly what I
time.
mean. You don't know what I'm going to do. And number two, this is, I told you in the beginning, this is not going to be a 1.5 hour presentation only on the text. I'm going to go through different things. I'm just going to throw it out there. If you have a different approach, if you have a different level of information, brilliant. If you can show, if you have evidence that Muhammad existed, congratulations. Then
I'll tell you what.
you
Look,
are, it's easy.
too many Marys has agreed to jump on. He said he can jump on now, but maybe do you want to finish just your presentation first?
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so too many
Otherwise, it
Marys.
doesn't make
I will
sense.
throw the link to you once Stops has done his presentation. As he says, it's not going to be a massively long one, so hang in there, and I'll send you the link when he's done. All right,
Okay.
Stops, you want to proceed?
Okay. So what we have is we have the biographies. Those are there's two which are normally accepted, and we don't have the originals. We don't have anything until a couple of hundred years ago. The other thing that we have is what is called the tradition, which is the so-called hadith. And there are many different versions. There are millions of those, and people went around and sort of compiled them with a secret process. And I'm just making a video about that now, showing that this is the most ridiculous claim ever made. How this is supposed to work, that a person 4,000 kilometers away, hundreds of years later, can get his hands on 600,000 sentences that Muhammad said he must have collected 30 a day. 30 a day sentences made by Muhammad, which people memorized. And then each one of those must have given this to somebody, to somebody, to somebody, to somebody over the centuries. And then the last person must have either traveled 4,000 kilometers to, for example, to Uzbekistan, where the Muslims had just occupied the country. And now Bukhari was a fervent follower, and then he apparently collected this. Or Bukhari went down to Mecca, to Medina, spoke to everybody that he met and said, "You know something about Muhammad," and collected this. So it's totally ridiculous. What we have, therefore, is in the Islamic texts nothing reliable. So what we have to do is we have to go to external texts. Oh, and also these contradict one another. They contradict the Quran. So there's nothing in the form of reliability that I would bet anything on. So you need other texts. It's the same as with Jesus a couple of hundred years before that, where you also have nothing in the Bible, unreliable, and then you go outside and you also find nothing. Very similar here. Now, what I've done is I've collected here, I think it's close to 50 different sources for as external sources, which are normally brought up in connection with Muhammad. So this starts with the Jacobi doctrine and blah blah blah, and you can go through this whole list. So what I've done is, can you just put the table on there from Mel, and then come back to this one afterwards. Okay, so this is something that I got from this presentation, which I talked about earlier, where Dr. Smith and Mel were going through all these texts. And this is the table. I like this approach because he made this intuitive to understand this much better than I did. And he says, okay, we have, for example, the Doctrina Jacobi. Can you see my mouse? No, you can't. So the top line, which has a red sort of border around it, this is the Doctrina Jacobi. And then he says, okay, who actually came up with this? Well, it's the Arabs. Does it mention Muhammad? No, it doesn't mention Muhammad. Not by name anyway. So then what was it? Was it a more warmongering? Was it a prophet? Was it monotheistic? Was it Abrahamic? And so on and so forth. And then the contents of this. And this he carries on one document after the other. So he goes chronologically. Then he goes to the next one, and this one does mention an MHMD, but it's not as a prophet, it's not as religious, there's no religious context here whatsoever. This is just somebody who's just a warlord running around killing people, and so on. And he goes through each one of these people, and he gives you a very nice overview, showing who did what, why, where, what was included, was not. And now we can go back to my thing, because what I did. Oh shit! Do I have to put the? No, it's still here. So you just need to activate the PDF again. Brilliant. So what I did is I said, okay, let me go and look at each one of those that I brought up. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to show you the process. So what I did is I summarized the contents. So here I said, so some guy in some area talks about someone, and this is in a letter to someone years after Muhammad has allegedly died. Do you take this now seriously? And then if a man in North Africa receives a letter from someone who wrote about something we heard from someone else who spoke to another person in the street in the region of Palestine, sending him that one prophet had appeared, the anointed one the Jews were waiting for. So was this written during Muhammad's alleged lifetime? No. Does it mention Muhammad as described in the Sunnah? No. Does it mention Islam? No. Does it mention the Quran? No. Does it mention Muslims? No. Okay, so if we look at this, it's in my eyes very difficult to understand why anyone would take this as a reliable source. I don't understand it. But there are people who believe this and who take it as such. So I don't know why. I don't know how this happens that people are so desperate to take something as well. I wouldn't call it evidence, as some sort of indication that this Muhammad existed. This reminds me of what Christians are doing, where they're saying, well, Tacitus mentions Jesus. Even ChatGPT says this. But if you go and look at the text, it doesn't. So how come this Jesus figure in the Bible doesn't appear anywhere? And then Christians are so desperate to show him that they even, they start lying about this, and they start saying, okay, Jesus existed because it's in Tacitus. Well, no, it doesn't. Tacitus only writes about something that somebody else told him. It's hearsay, and he doesn't even reveal his source. So this is useless. The same thing, what we have in this Jacobi doctrine, for example. Let me change this. Let me take this, stop this one, and give you this one, which is the Jacobi doctrine. Okay. So let's look at the contents quickly, because I just gave you the summary. And I just want to show you why I have summarized it as such. Because all it says here is, for at the time when the Sergius the Candidatus was slaughtered by the Saracens, I was in Caesarea. Now, Saracens is the word for like the thieves, the plunderers. And this was a group of people that lived somewhere close to the Red Sea, but not near Mecca or Medina or anything like this. And this has nothing to do with Arabs. This has nothing to do with Muslims. This is just a group of people who were nomads, who had no permanent residence, and they were not, they were not doing anything in the form of agriculture or something.
Stop. So I
Okay,
always
so
thought that sorry to interrupt. I thought that
no, go for it.
Saracens was just a word that was used to describe Arabs, and then after that Muslims. I didn't think that Saracens had any previous meaning to that.
Yeah, I know. I also was of this impression, but then if you look at this a little bit closer, you will see that there's a group of people which is much further north than the Hijaz. And this is a group of people, and they said because it comes from the Greek word zakara, and then the etymology of all this is explained. You can look all this up. I'm not going to go into detail about things like
Okay,
that
no
because
problem, no problem.
then it's too much. Anyway, they said the candidatos were slaughtered, and we Jews rejoice greatly. And they said that a prophet appeared, coming with the Saracens, and he is proclaiming the arrival of the coming anointed one and Christ. Okay. When I went out into Sycamia, and okay, this is now going from the west coast of Israel, okay, and then going off into Tunisia. I communicated to a certain very scriptural old man, and I said to him, "What do you say to me about this prophet who is appearing with the Saracens?" And with a groan, he said, "He's a deceiver. Do prophets come with swords and chariots?" I don't know how a chariot works in the desert. Anyway, really, these are works of disorder set in Russian today, and I fear that the Christ who came earlier when the Christians worship was one sent by God, and instead of him, we shall accept Hermolans, or what Hermol, I don't know what that is. For Isaiah said that we Jews have mistaken a hardened heart until the handmaid desert, but go forth with Abraham and learn about this prophet who's appearing. And I, Abraham, thoroughly investigating, heard from those who met him that you find nothing true in this one so-called prophet except shedding human blood, for he says that he has the keys of paradise, which is unbelievable. Now, there's an entire book about this last sentence, about the keys of paradise. Now, the funny thing is that there were 5 other prophets in the region, and one of them was Musaylima. And he said, I have the keys of paradise, which he stole from the Bible, because in the Bible you have David who says, I have the keys to paradise. So this keys of paradise is an old thing which just gets repeated, and it rocks and it shows up here in this Jacob's doctrine. So there's nothing here about Muhammad. There's nothing here about Islam. There's nothing here about Quran, the Muslims, anything, nothing. And this is why I came up with a summary that I did. Okay, now you can go back um, to the PDF. I just want to make sure that people see that I'm not making this up out of nothing, but that this is the original text. This is what people have said about this, and this is what it is that I am looking at. Okay, and this is why I summarized it as this. And I am here repeating the text again, but I wanted to make it bigger, so this is why I brought it as a separate screenshot. Anyway, so we have people need to need to decide, was if you look at the traditions, was Muhammad dead by 632? Yes or no? So this came out 634, 636, 638, possibly. We don't know. So if this was a little bit later, was he still alive at the time or not? And
Well,
did
no,
he
but
actually?
stops. To be fair, though, I mean, within if it's written within a few years of its death, you could assume that the author was alive at the time Muhammad was. So I think, yeah, I think it's reasonable to kind of consider it virtually a primary source in that respect.
Okay, yeah, but this is not during the lifetime of Muhammad.
Well, it's written a few years afterwards, isn't it? After he,
Correct.
but you
So
ran it, yeah.
there's nothing during the lifetime of Muhammad. I mean, this we need to be
But this
aware
is
of.
only a few years after it, so it could well have been somebody who, yeah, who was alive at the time that
Yeah, but he
Muhammad
says
was.
there's a prophet now on his way. So was Muhammad alive 634?
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it could, again, that's an estimate, isn't it? There could be a few. It could be a few years either way. So maybe he was still alive at that point. Who knows?
Okay,
But
but
sorry,
you see, you need
carry
to
on.
jippo the text. You need to start interpreting. You need to start putting things into a place which are not there. So there's no there, so you have to start putting it there. And this is where it starts getting dicey in my eyes, because now you have to say, well, this is a prophet who's now arriving in 634, 636, 638, whatever, a couple of years after the traditions say that Muhammad died. Okay, so you need to decide, how reliable is this? If somebody talks about somebody who's dead as though he's alive, does that make sense? Okay, but this is exactly why I'm saying I'm just putting it out there. I'm saying this is the information that I have. This is the questions that I ask myself. Is this possible that somebody who died is now alive and somebody will write a letter about this prophet coming around? So it's a couple of years later, absolutely. If you are not so critical and you say, okay, I accept this, fine. I don't. If you do, bingo, then you're good to go. This is what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the information. What you do with it, up to you. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through these two because, as you can see, it gets quite tedious and deep if you start looking at every single word and things. So then you have Sophronius. Okay, so this is now already like seven years later, and is it written during Muhammad's alleged lifetime? No. Does it mention Muhammad as described in the Sunnah? No. Does it mention Islam? No. Does it mention the Quran? No. Does it mention Muslims? No. The only thing it does mention is a Muhammad. So what I did here, I wrote here as a comment. It's a synodical letter without a date, and Sophronius gives an extensive list of heretics and asks in the valedictions that the following may be granted by God to our Christ-loving and most Gentile emperors. A strong and vigorous scepter to break the pride of all the barbarians and especially of the Saracens, who on account of our sins have now risen up against us unexpectedly and ravage all with cruel and feral design, with impious and godless audacity. Okay, and so on. And then if you go further, you will see that it's always the godless Saracens and blah 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 blah. And then this is then a question. The present circumstances are forcing me to think differently about our way of life. For why are so many wars being fought among us? Why do barbarian raids abound? Why are the troops of the Saracens attacking us? Why has there been so much destruction of plunder? And so on and so forth. So here, church is being pulled down, the cross mocked. So we're not talking about Muslims here. So this is quite weird to say that this is now in any way a testimony for the existence of Muhammad. And then you have a fragment later on that comes up. You have Maximus the Confessor. None of these mention anything of what I would say is the minimum. That it mentions Muhammad, it mentions the name, it mentions how he is described in the Sunnah, that it mentions Islam, it mentions the Quran, it mentions Muslims. None of them do. So these are the texts. So if now you can close this. If I now go to the texts, this was this. Okay. Now I need to select this one.
Is this a new document you want to put up?
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, bear with us because I'll try and work out next time to give you permissions to do this yourself, but I have to.
Here we go.
Sort out the document. Right, here we go. Is that?
No.
Oh, sorry. No, hang on.
This one you can remove.
Is that the correct one?
So what we see is coins. All right. What we see here is okay. Muhammad died in 632 allegedly. All right. Then the Umayyads came, and the first caliph was Muawiyah, and so we're now talking middle of the 7th century, and in the middle of the 7th century, according to Islamic sources, Uthman had brought up the Quran in 652, 653, somewhere around there. So it must have been in existence, and he sent 5 copies to different cities, so people must have known about it. But now here, 30 years later, Muawiyah, the first caliph, who was supposed to be the first Muslim caliph, let's call him that, comes along and he issues coins with a cross, with several crosses. And it says MHMD there, the anointed one, the praised one. And it says there, but here it is intended to be Jesus because he is a Christian. He goes. Where does he go? He doesn't go on pilgrimage to whatchamacallit, to Mecca. He goes to Jerusalem. He lives it up like crazy. It's drinking, whoring. It's everything that you can imagine. But he was not a Muslim. I mean, I think this makes it pretty clear, because you can't have a cross, so many crosses at least, on the coins. And
Stops. Can I
this
just can I
sure,
just stop you there? Because it wasn't Abu Bakr the first caliph.
yeah, but not the Umayyad.
Oh, the Umayyad dynasty. Sorry,
You
beg your
you
pardon. Sorry.
you have the so-called four righteously guided caliphs
Okay, sorry.
until
My
Ali.
mistake. I think I must have misheard you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then Muawiyah was the first Umayyad caliph. And where was he? Was he in Mecca? Was he in Medina? No, he was up in Damascus. So the funny thing is, everything now seems to point to something further north. So we're looking at everything is 1,000 kilometers further north. In the Quran, you have several, from the geography point of view. You have sentences like, "We are passing the ruins of the burned cities." Well, if this is supposed to be Sodom and Gomorrah, then we're looking at somewhere around the Dead Sea, also 1,000 kilometers north. If we're looking at the language, it is more based, or from an etymology point of view, it is more a Nabatean language than a Yemenite language. You have sources which go and you say, okay, they actually came from North Africa. Definitely, yes. But the language that we are seeing is more Nabatean, Aramaic, Syriac influence than anything else. Shit, I should be drinking in between. Anyway, so we see here that the coins that the people gave out as a sign of their dominance is anointed, adorned with crosses, which makes them non-Islamic. Also, you have a figure there, which is totally un-Islamic. You're not allowed to have figures anywhere. So everything here shows this has nothing to do with Islam. The funny thing is, from a historic point of view,
Stop. Stops.
okay,
Can I just like you? You're saying you can't have figures there because it's un-Islamic. I mean, I didn't think that that's been the case throughout Islam, has it? I mean, that's different sects and stuff like that, isn't it? That sort of talk about not being able to depict certain images of people and things like that. But that's not always been the case, has it, throughout all of Islam?
yes,
I don't know. I'd question that. I think because I mean there've been Muslim images of Muhammad himself. I'm sure there's like medieval depictions of him.
okay. I do not know of any tolerance of faces of human depiction in Islam.
I mean, I think that's more true today, but I think historically
Even historically, I am not aware of anyone ever saying, yes, you're allowed to draw or depict any kind of person. You're not allowed to have any kind of statue or anything like that.
All right, well, look, we'll put a pin in that. I put up this new slide of yours. Can you make that bigger, Stops? Because that is really small on the screen.
Like
Much
this.
I mean, one. Oh, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay, here we have the same thing. Okay, and we're now really talking like late 7th century. Okay, and we still see crosses. We still see things like a fire altar on the left-hand side on top, from the Zoroastrian influence,
Can you
and we
make that
see a
one
face.
bigger? Can you make that one bigger just to so we can? Oh yeah, that's very clear.
So you see the altar on top, and you see the face on this coin.
Right.
Okay, so these things definitely do not point towards an Islamic origin. Now, the next thing, if you look at, for example, what then later Malik and Marwan did. For example, Muhammad is said to have, I don't know, the Miraj, the night journey. He was supposed to have heart surgery, open heart surgery. Then he was put on top of the Burak, which flew to Jerusalem. And he tied it up outside, went inside, prayed, and then flew up to heaven. Now, this mosque did not exist until 100 years later. So there's a couple of instances which simply do not make sense. So we have this place. I mean the Rock of the Dome, no, the Dome of the Rock. Sorry, it was only constructed, and this octagon was built in late 7th century, like around 690 or something. Okay, and then the church, the mosque on the southern side, was only built 30 years later. So there's a lot of discrepancy here. Okay, so from the text we can see there's nothing about Muhammad. The external sources do not show you anything about the Muhammad as it is described in the Sunnah. It's barely mentioned by name. What we do have is one or two mentions of MHMD, which can refer to a Muhammad, not necessarily to this one. So there is no reliable source indicating that Muhammad existed as described in the Sunnah. Let's take a look at another thing. Let's take a look at agriculture. In the Quran, it mentions, in the Hadith, it mentions that people should be eating olives, should be eating grapes. You cannot have this without water. Mecca did not have water. Medina was just an oasis with very little water. So all this stuff must be further north, but not in Mecca. So how can you have this in a different place, 1,000 kilometers south, where there is no water? Then it is said that Mecca, and this is for me the knockout punch. Okay, it says that Mecca was like the first city ever constructed. It was where Eve was dropped off. Adam was dropped off apparently somewhere in India or Pakistan, or this region. But I mean, he was 30 meters tall. I mean, so it didn't take him long to get to Mecca, I suppose. But anyway, if I look at the stories around Mecca, the first city, a hub, well developed, rich with trading, with a hub with all sorts of things. It's impossible. It does not make sense. If you take a topographical map of the area of Jeddah, Mecca, and Taif, and you then go and you follow what people are claiming, that boats offloaded in Aden in Yemen, and then put everything on camels, went north to Petra, which was the trading hub, but they stopped. And in Taif, they went 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer, vertical down, in serpentines. It must have taken a full day just to go down to Mecca. Was there food there? No. Was there civilization there? No. Was there water there? No. Were there people there? No. So then, what are they supposed to trade? They only had some trinkets. They only had some idol figures or things like that. But there's nothing that you can trade. And then,
couldn't it have been a stop-off point between places? So,
well, this is what I'm saying. How can you make it a stop-off point? Then you would stay in Taif instead of going 1,000 meters vertical down and then again 1,000 meters vertical up again, only to continue when you have the water right next to you. Why would you offload a boat in Yemen when you can just sail up the Red Sea and get to Petra on the boat that you're in? Why would you offload this onto camels, which require food and drink and maintenance, and they are living animals? They require a lot more maintenance than a boat. So you could just sail up the Red Sea. You are there in 1 or 2 days, where with camels you're there in weeks. And it's crazy to think that you're going from Taif 1 kilometer down and 1 kilometer up vertical. You know, it's not an easy incline or something. No, it's like literally vertical. So it's crazy. And I've got photos of the tracks, even as you look at them today. I mean, today there's a highway going up there, but it's in serpentines because it's vertical up. To go to Medina, and then this is crazy. This is absolute ridiculous. This is totally illogical that anybody would do that. And what would the animals do in Mecca? You only have one tiny little well, which is the Zamzam well. That's it. This doesn't give you water. I mean, the amount of water that today has to come from desalination plants in Jeddah, and then which gets pumped up to Mecca and then sold there as Zamzam water is incredible. So in those days, definitely this whole thing with the with the trading route, that's totally fabricated. And if you look at Patricia Croner, if you look at Michael Cook, if you look at Fred Donner, if you look at all these people, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying this does not make sense. So you have a lot of scholars who are totally rejecting this notion of a trade route. I think Hoyland was the only one who came up who actually said, yeah, it makes sense, but no, not really. Okay, next point. Let's talk about Dan Gibson.
Can I just ask, because Too Many Marys is going crazy in the chat, disagreeing with every single point. So I'm wondering how much have you got left to go, and we can bring
this is the last one.
This is the last one. Okay, brilliant.
Because if we look at Dan Gibson, he spent considerable amount of time looking at Mecca, looking at the architecture. And he says, okay, it says that there was a city wall. Does Mecca have a city wall? No. It's located in a valley. Is Mecca located in a valley? No. Is there a neighboring valley? No. Is there a stream in between? No. Are there four like central bulwark towers located? No. So none of the architecture that is mentioned in the secondary text corresponds with reality. There is nothing there. If you look at the maps, does anybody mention Mecca? No. If it was the first city, if it was such a booming hub, surely somebody must have seen, bumped, or heard about it, and there is nothing. It's only mentioned once in the Quran in an obscure side sentence somewhere. And in their desperation, and Muslims go and say, yeah, but there's Bakka and Mecca and Bakka. Yeah, this could be the same thing. No, it cannot. And then they're saying, well, on Ptolemy's map, there's a city called Makaraba. This is Mecca. No, if you align it properly with the wadis, with everything that you have, the topography, it's actually in the north of Yemen. So it's miles away from Mecca. So nobody mentions Mecca. Nobody has ever seen Mecca. Nobody's noticed Mecca. So if Muhammad existed, he was put in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's it. Sorry, guys. If Mecca doesn't exist, Muhammad can't exist the way as it was described in the Sunnah. Therefore, the Quran can't have been delivered to Muhammad sitting in a cave, which doesn't overlook Mecca, by the way, as is claimed. And so all these stories were just transposed. Somebody in the probably 8th, 9th century fabricated this, came up with stuff, fabricated the hadith, and then said, okay, the same as what we did with Jesus. We also said, let's bring him to Nazareth, which didn't exist at the time. And they did the same thing. They went and said, well, they can't check what happened 300 years ago. So let us pretend that all this happened 300 years ago in a city that we're going to develop now, which 300 years ago didn't exist, so nobody can check anything, not thinking that 1,000 years later, we would be able to check some of these things. So that's it. So
okay, right. Thank you for that, Stops. I appreciate it. I'm going to bring in Too Many Marys or Mary Harb now.
All right, let's see if my yeah, it's working. Cool.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
So I would really like to talk about first the language. Why is
Mary,
it
just before you start, just before you start, can you just give us a little bit of your background? Are you
well, I am the person from whom Mel stole that screenshot, just so you know. He stole the screenshot and did not credit me. And my issue is the falsity of what Jay Smith is spreading and that it makes Christians look bad. If you guys want to look bad, I don't really care. But I don't want Christians
Mary,
to be...
Mary, could you just give us a bit of your background? Are you a Christian, a Muslim?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
You're a Christian, right? Okay,
thank you. I debated Robert Spencer recently on the historicity of Islam. And that was a slide from that debate, but also Mel engaged on it previously, and he got very, very upset by my debate. And so that's why he took it and did not credit me. But I would like to talk about first, if you would, the language of the Quran. Why do you think that it's Nabatean? Why do you think that the most authoritative people say it's Nabatean?
Because the most authoritative people say it's not.
Okay, who says that it's Nabatean? Give me a name.
Okay, do you think I have this like from the top of my head? No, I can't.
Okay, well, I will give you a name of people who say it's Hijazi. The actual experts, Al-Jalad and Van Putten, say that it is Hijazi. Here, let me share a screen with you. And you don't have to believe me. I want you to check this, and I will explain why it's Hijazi. So here you go. See that? What's it called? Quranic Arabic from its which origins? Hijazi. To the classical reading traditions. This is by Van Putten. See? And this here.
Oh, Moraine van Putten. Okay. Yes, now I see who this is. Yeah.
Yes. And the editorial board has Al-Jalad on it, whom Jay Smith will cite in his presentations as agreeing with him. Where do they think it's from? The Hijaz. Do you know why it's from the Hijaz? So there are several linguistic features of Hijazi Arabic that cause rhymes to occur when you read the Quran and with an Hijazi dialect, with its dialectical features, not the dialectical features of Nabatea, not the dialectical features of other places. You have rhymes in proper places that get lost when you use other dialectical pronunciations. This is very important, and it shows very clearly that it's Hijazi. The earliest manuscripts, what writing style are they found in?
Are you asking or what?
Well, I'm asking if you know. If you don't know, that's fine.
Well, it's either Hijaz or Kufic.
It's Hijazi. The earliest ones are Hijazi. They're not Kufic.
Okay, this is why it's called that. Okay,
it's called that because where is it found? Near the Hijaz, and it's explicitly described by other people as the Hijazi style. Now, when they talk about Hijazi origins, they mean from the literal mountains of the Hijaz. They believe that it comes from the literal mountains of the Hijaz. Whenever you say that it should be Yemeni, why do you think that the language of Yemen, Sabaic, is Arabic? You know that it's a completely different language. It's not the same language. Arabic is one language. Sabaic is a different language. It's an old South Arabian language. The languages of Yemen natively were the old South Arabian languages. They were not Arabic. Aramaic is also not a dialect of Arabic. Aramaic is a different language. It is a Northwest Semitic language, whereas Arabic is in the West Semitic branch, but not in the Northwest Semitic branch. We shouldn't confuse these things. You have gotten lots of talking points watching videos and not checking up on the information, and that's a problem. Now, okay. As for if you want to talk about the coins, you're misrepresenting.
No, hang on. No. Let's stick to one topic, one at a time. Otherwise, it gets too much. I have looked at a lot of documentation. I have looked at a lot of these claims. I have looked at a lot of these lines of reasoning where some people say it's from here, some people say it's from here. We see the influence. I mean, this goes all the way to Gustav Luxemburg, who says, no, you have to actually substitute some of it for Syriac. So there's a lot of mixture going around. And what I have done is I have tried to stay in the middle between all of these. And I've taken from here where I have seen real evidence. And what Moraine does here is he says,
hang on, what real evidence do you have?
Let me just finish this.
Aramaic. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're mixing things up. You're not listening properly. I think you're emotional about this, and this is why you're not really listening to what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's Aramaic. I'm not saying it's Nabatean. I'm not saying it's Syriac. I understand that these are different languages, but what I have seen from academics, from scholars, if I compare, for example, the differences between Nabatean and the Quran, there is more similarity there than there is between other
Example.
scripts or others, whatever.
Example.
If I
that's
go
not
and
true.
look at the different scripts,
Oh,
yes, there is the so-called, listen, it doesn't work if you interrupt me all the time.
Go ahead.
I let you speak.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
and I would really like it if you let me speak as well. So if I'm looking at the different versions of the language, then to me, this makes sense. To you, it does not. We can argue about these things. We can discuss these things. We can go on and backwards and forwards about the language which is more Nabatean or more Aramaic or more Syriac or whatever it resembles. And whether it is Hijazi or not doesn't really matter. We're talking about the existence of Muhammad, and Muhammad's existence is not dependent on the language.
So again, you're talking about you looked at the script. Do you know that there's a difference between a script and a language? For example, I can write Greek using the Latin alphabet, and that doesn't make it Latin. Your response, I look at the script, that's like saying, hey, I looked at something that was rendered in Latin, so I think it's the language with Roman characters, so I think the language is a Latin. It can't be Greek because it looks different. That's the argument.
Are you aware that there is a left and right slant in Arabic?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. This is what makes it Kufic. This is what makes it Hijazi.
No, that's not what makes it Hijazi. Whenever he talks about the Hijazi beginnings, he is not talking about the script. He is talking about the language, the actual contents of the language. No, you are misrepresenting Al-Jalad. Al-Jalad says that the actual contents of this language is from the Hijaz. Not that, oh, look, I think that this looks kind of Hijazi. He's not talking about scripts. He's talking about the contents of the Rasm, which are captured even if you write it in Latin letters. It's still Hijazi in its recitation. The content is Hijazi.
The Rasm is just the text. I'm talking about the script. I'm talking Hijazi and Kufic are just scripts. They're not languages.
Sweetheart, that's not what Al-Jalad is talking about. He is talking about the dialect of the Hijaz. He's not talking about the script.
A dialect of what?
Oh my goodness, of Arabic.
Oh, you see, there we go.
The language is Arabic. Yes? Can we agree on that? The language of the Quran is Arabic.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So different areas have different Arabic dialects. Dialects are oral phenomena, meaning that they are oral, they are heard. When Al-Jalad writes about Quranic Arabic from its Hijazi beginnings, he is talking about the dialect, not a writing style. You are confusing writing styles with dialects. I'm asking you a question. What in the Quran makes you think that it is from Nabatean Arabic rather than Hijazi Arabic, the dialects, the spoken dialects?
The language, the contents, the words chosen, the way that it is written, the grammar, everything is part of the dialect of the north and not of the south or the center.
Give me an example.
Listen, Mary, what does it have to do with Muhammad? Because I told you, you're repeating everything, and I'm telling you again and again, it does not matter.
Okay,
you're arguing a side point.
This is part of your evidence that it's not from that Islam didn't originate in the Hijaz because the language is from the north. I want.
That's not my evidence. That's nothing. That has nothing to do with my evidence. No, that is not part.
Okay, are you going to say that you will accept this is in the Hijazi dialect because you do not have a single example of a grammatical or phonological trace in the Quran that is congruent with northern dialects rather than the Hijazi dialects? Will you grant that?
I accept that there can be a discussion. There's a discussion that can be had about this. There is no definite answer. I know what I have read. I know that I have made up my mind about this because of the stuff that I have read. But Mary, I can be wrong. And if you have more evidence that shows me that I am wrong, I'm happy to go and change it. And I will change my mind and say, okay, it's more Hijazi than Nabatean. Cool. What does it have to do with Muhammad?
because you begin by saying that this was a phenomena that started too far north. You're repeating it's too many miles north. It's all north. It's all north. It's all north. If the Quran is from the Hijaz, that means that the origins of Islam are in the Hijaz. The Quran is the earliest Islamic documents that we have are Quranic.
I said it indicates that, no, there are a lot of indications that put the origins of Islam further north. Much further north. And the language is just one of them. This is just one of the elements that I put out.
I think you're still talking, but I can't hear you.
Stops. We can't hear you, mate. Have you muted yourself?
Nobody can hear you. Sorry, I think you muted yourself.
Stops.
No, this is the automatic noise cancellation.
Oh no, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
You're back. You're back.
Yeah, this is if I move this a little bit, it thinks that I'm gone and it switches it off. This is a terrible headset. Sorry about that.
About 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah, you have to back up to like almost the beginning of your last response.
Oh shit! Okay, let me put this microphone. Okay, is it okay now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, what I said is what I said was the language is just one indication that the origin of Islam is further north. That's all I said. I did not say anything about the origin or the existence of Muhammad. This is just one of the indications. And I told you, yes, I can change my mind if you have the evidence. I'm happy to change my mind. It's okay, but this has nothing to do with Muhammad.
Well, this would be a problem for you if Islam started farther north. Why is the language of the Quran in the Hijazi dialect?
Okay, then this is something that we have to look up.
And you're saying that it matches. I want an example of the match.
Okay, can we I can't give you everything. I'm not prepared for a linguistic argument at the moment.
Okay, well, I am, but that's fine. Okay, let's see, what was your next contention? That the language was too far north, that, let me go back. Oh, that what was described in the sources is a place that is fertile and a huge trade region and other things. That is also not accurate. What's described in the Islamic sources, among other things, in Mecca, they pooped outside and did not have latrines. It's a small enough place that they pooped outside. So,
Mary, did you want me to put anything up on the screen again?
Well,
sorry, your sound seems to have gone.
Okay, I don't understand how pooping outside has anything to do with olives, and it's not, Mary. If you try and represent me, accurately. That's not what I said. What I said, I didn't say that it's fertility. I just said if you want to have olives and grapes, you cannot grow them in Mecca.
To be fair, you could transport them there, couldn't you, Stops?
1,000 kilometers.
Well, I mean, it's trade routes. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
no, you can't get 1,000 kilometers. You can't. I mean, they didn't have cooler trucks in those days.
Well, no, I mean, you could. I'm not saying you got the modern technology, but I'm sure you could. There may be other methods of kind of keeping them cool, but
how would you transport them? Okay, and to whom would you transport? To whom? Mecca didn't exist.
Okay, hang on a second. Mary is crashed, and oh, hang on, I think she's back. Mary,
okay.
Mary, can you hear us?
Oh no, I'm hearing you twice now. Unfortunately, give me one second.
Right. I mean, you're coming through okay, but
okay, perfect. Well, I'm sort of coming through okay. Let me figure out where I am here. Let me shut everything down. I'll be right back, and I will show you my sources. Because Opera crashed, it decided to reopen everything, and I don't know what tab the original one is on. So I will be right back.
No problem. We'll wait for you.
It'll just take me just a moment, and I'll get you my source. That is crazy.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, let me just summarize this a bit. What I said is we have no textual sources that refer to Muhammad as described.
Stop! Your voice is breaking on now.
No, come on. I need to change the fucking microphone. This is horrible. Okay, is it back then?
I mean, stop. So what I was thinking is, because we've already gone over an hour, and obviously there's a lot here, it might be worth maybe having Mary back on if she's willing to, maybe next week, and we could kind of go into this in more detail, because I'm actually really enjoying like the going through the details of this, and I think it's quite interesting. And then you maybe could have some preparation time yourself to
No, I'm not going to look at it. Yeah, but drastic. I'm not going to look at the text, really. I mean, now, because then she's going to say, well, I've got a scholar who says this, and I've got a scholar who says this. I've got a scholar who says this, and I've got one who says this. This is a futile argument. This is something that you cannot resolve, all right? This is always going to be open. So Mary's going to have Moraine, then I'm going to have somebody else. So this is not something that is important, and it's not something that we can resolve. So what's the point?
Let's talk about Mecca. Well, you have one of your evidences is that the Quranic geography describes Petra and not Mecca. First of all,
that's not what I said.
You quoted Dan Gibson and said that Mecca doesn't have these things. Now, you may not be supporting his thesis. Okay,
correct.
Where does it say in the Islamic sources that Mecca had a city wall?
Oh my God! Do I need to really now find the sentence where it says that?
It doesn't say that. Do you know what it says? One person.
What does it say?
One person was caught up against a wall of a house and killed. A wall of a house is not a city wall. It does not say that there were grapes in Mecca ever. In fact, the thing that Gibson cites, where it's supposed to say that there were grapes, is referring to something that supposedly happened where an angel came down and fed a guy some grapes, and there was no fruit in Mecca at all at that time, because Mecca had been surrounded and had been cut off from supplies. So there was no fruit at all in Mecca. And yet this man magically had grapes. There is no source that ever says that Mecca is a place where grapes grow. Ever.
That's not what I'm referring to.
There is no source that ever says that Mecca is a place where there is olive oil or olive trees. There, in fact, in the Quran,
I didn't say anything about olive trees or olive oil.
You said olives. You said olives. And in fact, explicitly there is nothing that says that there are olives that grow in Mecca, which would come from olive trees. There is, in fact, the Quran does explicitly say that Mecca is that the house of Abraham, which is what the Quran falsely calls the Kaaba, that it is in a place where there are no cultivated plants at all. There's no cultivation there. So why are you looking for agriculture when it explicitly says there's no agriculture, so that you'll have to depend on Allah and get these things from afar?
Now we're getting there, you see? That's much better, because now you're asking questions. I'm saying this because in the Quran it says eat olives and grapes.
Oh my goodness. It doesn't say eat olives and grapes in Mecca. It doesn't say that those are growing in Mecca. The fact that people know that things exist does not mean that they are growing them locally. You realize that, right? Like, I know that figs exist, and figs don't come from where I live.
Okay. If I start getting condescending like you are now, it's not going to really help us in any way. I'm just trying to stay as factual as possible. What I read in the Quran is addressing people in Mecca, apparently, because this is where it starts. This is where Muhammad is. This is where Muhammad and in Medina and in Mecca. And it says, eat grapes and olives.
Which verse says eat grapes and olives?
Oh my God. We are not at this level, Mary. We are not at the level that I'm going to pick up now the book and go and look for this specific word. I gave you a general overview over the things. I brought up different things, and you can say it's not accurate, but because I can't now show you one specific word out of 6,000 sentences in the Quran. My goodness. Is my brain gone completely senile if I read this? This is something that I have remembered from reading in the Quran. I can now open the Quran and do a find, search for me the place where it says grapes and olives, find all the times that olives are mentioned in the Quran. And then we go through them one by one. And then you look at the grammar, and then you say, yeah, but it doesn't say in Mecca. And here it says, yes, you should consume them, but it doesn't say in Mecca, or it doesn't say explicitly that. Of course you can nitpick these things. I'm giving a broad overview.
Okay.
I'm giving you 5 different areas where I think there is no indication that Muhammad existed, not in the way as it was described in the Sunnah. There could be a Muhammad, but not the way that it is described in the Sunnah. If you can find something with positive evidence, because all you're doing is you're nitpicking, okay? You're saying, yeah, but here you didn't look at this word and you don't look at this word. And
No, I'm
that-
not nitpicking. I'm saying your overall approach is wrong and very flawed. It says explicitly in the Quran that there is no agriculture around the Kaaba. If you take the typical view that the house of Abraham refers to the Kaaba, there is no agriculture, and you have to bring in edibles from outside of it. It says that explicitly. But you want to go to the fact that they're aware that these things exist and that there are
No, I
places
don't.
that have these things and say that Mecca needs to have them. That's what you said.
No, I don't. No, that's not what I said. My
Okay.
goodness, I didn't
So-
say that there is agriculture. I didn't say the Quran says there is agriculture.
You just
You are putting
did.
words in my mouth, which
Okay.
I never said. I would never say that because this would be ludicrous if I would say that. I
Awesome.
said in the Quran
And-
it says eat olives and eat grapes, and neither of those can exist in the Hijaz, and they can't be brought in from Damascus or from wherever, because the distances are totally prohibitive to bring in grapes and olives. And I did not say they have to be grown there. It's just impossible that they existed there. There's no water in Mecca. And the thing is, if you disagree with me, why don't you do something constructive and say, okay, here's the evidence that Muhammad existed as described in the Sunnah. That I would appreciate.
So I'm already giving you evidence that the Quran is from the Hijaz, positive evidence based on the fact that the rhymes depend on the Hijazi dialect and cannot work in any other dialect. There you go.
What does that have to do with Muhammad? Where does it say Muhammad? Listen, I
Is this
asked you,
okay?
can you bring me evidence that Muhammad existed as described in the Sunnah? Now you're saying there's a rhyme.
So what is Muhammad described in the Sunnah as being from the Hijaz?
Yes.
Okay. Would a Hijazi origin
No,
be
from
in
Mecca.
be in favor of the standard narrative that he came from the Hijaz?
It says he was born in Mecca.
Awesome. Which is in the Hijaz. And does Mecca have agriculture?
No.
Okay. If the Quran explicitly says that the place where this great shrine is does not have agriculture, would that point to a place like Mecca that doesn't have agriculture?
I have no idea what you're saying.
I'm sure you don't. It's very convenient. So when Allah talks about being able to produce things that people are able to enjoy, say in Taif, where there was agriculture, which is only 95 kilometers from Mecca, where you could bring things in from. But when the Quran says that these things exist, does that mean that these things must be present in Mecca? Or is there any indication whatsoever that this is something that is occurring in Mecca?
Is this your evidence that Muhammad existed as described in the Sunnah?
Again, you said that it is evidence that he did not exist. I am just tackling the evidence that you have brought up.
Okay, so you can't bring any evidence that Muhammad existed as described in the Sunnah. Is that
playing
correct?
This game? That
This is
a
not a
lie.
game. This is not. I'm sick and tired of you nitpicking and trying to shoot holes into what I said
I'm
using
sick and tired of
silly
you lying
arguments.
about every
Do
single
you
source.
have? Okay.
Why
Do you
are
have
so
evidence?
dishonest?
Yes or no?
Yes, the fact that it is Hijazi restricts it to an area. You cannot be more specific than that, period. That's not possible. Every piece of evidence that we would expect from a historical Muhammad is present, and no piece that we wouldn't expect is pointing in another direction. I will say that very firmly. We do not expect.
Well, you're
if
wrong.
This were something, well, you can feel however you like. I'm talking about facts.
Sure,
I'm
that
talking
is
about actual evidence. You say this is from the north. I say it's from the Hijaz. The rhymes, internal rhymes, show that it must be Hijazi. And you're like, well, other people have different feelings. You can't even name them.
Okay, hang on. Let me cut in here for a second.
They have dug up in Mecca. They have dug up Khadija's house, but he won't accept that. He'll say it's not her house. So why bother? Why
They dug
bother to
up
say that we
Khadijah's
have
house.
done
Do-
we
do
have
you-
done they've done the excavation of Khadijah's house, but he'll just say no, they're just lying. So why
No.
bother?
I'd be interested to see any evidence for that.
Me too.
It takes, oh my goodness, this was a big thing a number of years ago. They excavated Khadijah's house. There are historical descriptions of it from the early 10th century, is the first like native Meccan giving his own official history of Mecca. And again, I don't think, for example, that Romulus and Remus existed. Does that mean that Rome doesn't exist?
This is whataboutism. This is silly.
No, we're
Mary,
not
listen,
whataboutism.
what you are doing is you're telling me in the 10th century there was somebody who said something. Muhammad we're talking about the 6th century.
And we're talking about an excavation of that location that was identified in the 10th century, which does go back to the 7th century. But you wouldn't take it.
So they found some place which
lost.
said this is where Khadijah lived. Okay.
It was never
Hang
lost.
on.
It was always identified.
Wait. Let me interject here. Mary, would you be interested in coming back on another episode and doing your own presentation around this topic? Would that interest you? Because I'd really be interested to see your perspective on it and the evidence.
Exactly. That's the way to do it.
How about I restrict it to coins? Because I have many, many hours of evidence that I presented at various times. And I can do coins, I can do qiblas, I can do the linguistics, I can do all kinds of things. The fact is, we don't have, for example, have you heard of the kingdom of Kinda?
The kingdom of what?
Kinda. Have you even heard of it? Yeah, you haven't, right? Because it's
off the top of my head, it doesn't sound familiar. No.
Right, it doesn't sound familiar. You don't have it in your history books. It was a kingdom of Central Arabia that has been understood from Yemeni writings together with Roman writings, together with Persian writings, piecing together the history of this kingdom, together with later Arab traditions about these various tribes. We call it the kingdom of Kinda. Like that's our historical, the Western term that we apply to this power base with kings, et cetera, et cetera. But do you know what we don't have? We don't have like, inscriptions about a lot of these people, because this was not a central literate area. So we have
Mary. Sorry. Let me just interject. It seems like, again, I personally am not massively knowledgeable. I've read little bits here and there over the years, but I'm certainly not knowledgeable. And I would really appreciate if you'd like to come back and just maybe present what you think is the strongest evidence for Muhammad's existence and fitting the kind of the standard narrative that we have from the Islamic sources. And if you would be interested in doing a presentation on that, I'd love to have you back if you're interested.
I mean, I would just be rehashing my opening with my debate with Robert Spencer. So
well, I mean that's fine. I mean,
you can look at that if you like.
I mean, I don't watch Robert Spencer's content, so I mean,
it was a debate on DCCI, but you do watch Jay Smith, because all of these talking.
No, I don't watch Jay Smith.
You may not, but all of his talking points were paraphrases of things that he says.
Well, look, it would, as I say, look, the offer is open if you'd like to come. I think it would be interesting.
I will represent my opening at some point.
When would you like to do it?
I'm just representing my opening, so I could do it tomorrow at a time that's convenient for you.
Well, I mean, we don't have a show tomorrow, but would you be available to come on? Let me think. I mean, possibly could do it on Sunday. We could do an additional show on Sunday.
I'm booked Sundays.
Okay. Well, look, would you
do it at your normal show time?
Would you like to come back in next Friday then?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want like 3 hours on coins, but if you
this is going to be a 20-minute opening, and then I will respond to all questions and challenges. How about that?
That sounds brilliant. That would be fantastic. Yeah, if you'd like to do that, then because I mean, look, one of the things that we did want to do is we haven't kind of had discussions like this for since we brought back the show. So it would be nice to kind of have, you know, some different opinions and different kind of viewpoints and everything. So yeah, if you'd like to come on, 20-minute presentation sounds a perfect amount of time, and then we can fill questions, we can take questions from the chat, etc., and go as long as you need to. So yeah, I tell you what, I don't know, do you use Discord at all?
I am currently on Discord. Yes, let me see what my username is.
I tell you what, let me see if I can send you the Gin and Tonic Show Discord, and you can kind of you can then kind of get in touch with me on there, and we can sort of, you know, just arrange it and everything. And I can send you the link there and everything.
Hang on, let me see if I can find. I think I'm just Many Marys on there. It looks like my profile name and my username appear to be. See if you can find it.
Okay, well, I'll
just type it in now because I can't hear.
Okay, all right. Well, look, we'll work it out. I mean, look, even if we, as I say, we're here 8 p.m. UK time on Friday. So I mean, you know, even though I can't find you on Discord, just make sure you're available around that time. I'll bring you in, and you know, you can do your presentation.
Sorry, which time again?
Yeah, it's 8 p.m. UK time. So what time's? Well, sorry, if you don't want to tell us where you are, that's fine. But I don't know. It's
I can't find Many Marys.
Yeah, but it's 8 p.m. UK time is when we start, and yeah, it'll be on a Friday. So if you want to come back, and we'll try and find you on Discord. I'm trying to put a link in for our Discord, but I can't.
Well, yeah, if you can do a link, I can copy it over. So just throw in your, and that's I organize everything on Eastern time because more Americans on Eastern than anything. So that's 3 p.m. Eastern, same time as today, correct? Yeah. All right. So.
Hang on, Nick. Can you, I haven't got permission to do the link on the Gin and Tonic server. Can you? Sorry, Nick. Can you put it in the chat for us? Because it's not my server.
Do you want this on the Gin and Tonic one?
Yeah. Well, Nick is the admin on the Gin and Tonic one, so I thought he could.
Oh, because I'm okay.
Oh, can you? If you've got the link, then you can send it, and then Mary can take the Discord link. Yeah. Sorry about this, folks. I know this isn't exhilarating listening, but I think this would be really good. This would be a really good chat to have next week, and I'd be really interested to hear Mary's presentation, and then we can kind of have a discussion about it. So, Stops, I don't know if you can put the link for the Gin and Tonic server.
You can just throw it in studio chat if you want to. Don't want to put it in the main chat, and I will.
No, it's fine in the main chat. It doesn't matter. It's an open server, so
I don't care. I can see both. So I am
okay. Copy blah 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 da 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 da.
So you guys can find me.
Okay, here you go.
Okay. Where?
Where have you put it? Oh, you got it on the inside chat. Brilliant. Okay.
This chat. So you guys can find
there.
me.
I mean, I'm on there. You can. I'm just on there as Drastic Measures, so you should be able to see my icon. I'm a member on that server, so you can send me a direct message and same to Stops. But yeah, we'd love to have you back next week. So I think this could make for a very interesting episode. So yeah, look, I think. Sorry, Mary, unless there was anything else you wanted to say or you Stops, I think we can wrap it up for now.
Yeah, I would just like to point out, I hope, Mary, you're not going to just go, there's a coin which says MHMD and that there's half the Shahada and things like that. I hope you're not going to go there.
Why would I go there?
I don't know, because that's what normally people do.
Well, Stops. Let's be clear.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just making sure that this is not going to be like that. That this is going to be different, because that would really be a letdown.
Because you claim that this is a title of Jesus, but it isn't. So
I didn't say it's a title of Jesus.
You said it referred to Jesus.
Mary, you need to listen.
The Messiah. You said that it's
to listen.
Everybody else heard this.
Doesn't matter. You're gonna tell us your version next week. That's good.
Let's save the arguments till next week, because I'm sure
exactly
it's gonna get feisty again. But Mary, I want to thank you very much for coming on. I do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you next week to do this presentation. I think it'll be very interesting. Stop spamming. Thank you as usual. Thanks everyone in the comments. Yeah, hopefully we'll bring you another feisty show next week. Mary will give us a presentation. If you want to leave comments and stuff in the chat, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. But for now, I'd like to say thanks to everyone, and we are out.